Alzheimer's patients are dying of mad cow disease. So my question specifically, what do you see as an application of your science, if not your wisdom, in terms of, they always talk about the prion in BSE, the mad cow situation, being a misshapen, that there's a twisting that takes place in the prion, and that this no doubt originates from the soil, and that's because of changes in pH, acid rain alone, or pesticides. So if you can understand the gist of where I'm going, I mean, we can understand to the nth degree the linear construct, but if we can't apply it to life sciences, our whole planet could, because they can't destroy a prion. They can't. There's nothing, they've tried everything, radiation, chemicals, heat. They cannot kill a prion. And it's endemic. It's in the soil. It's everywhere. It's universal. So do you see any application? Because this, before you could get to the year 2050, you know, the prions may have taken over.
Well, I am concerned about prions. All of the problems, pretty much, that we're combating in biology have to do with self-replication gone awry. Most of these forms of replication are genetic. Viruses are essentially genes that are replicating, harnessing the cell's own replication machinery. Bacteria are cells that replicate normally. Cancer cells are our own cells.
But the prion is more primordial. It doesn't have any DNA.
I understand. I'm getting to that. Prions are proteins that self-replicate, requiring the supporting machinery of a biological substrate, but there's no DNA in a prion. It's a very slow replicating process. I would say by the 2020s, when we have nanobots that can go in and remove debris, combat pathogens, actually make repairs and alterations at the molecular level, they will be able to detect and
reverse engineer the twisted form of the prion?
Right. Now, prion processes actually have constructive roles, too. We're finding that prion-type mechanisms are involved in human memory. So it is a natural biological process. But when it goes awry and then self-replicates in a pathological process, it's a disease process. You're correct that using our current methodologies, we don't have one that can combat prions. Fortunately, it's a very slow process. So
slow in some cases and not in others.
Yeah, well, remains to be seen. It appears to be developing very slowly in the cases we're aware of. But I would say within 20 years we will have this type of nanotechnology that can combat prions, because it does have to be combated at a nanotechnology level.
Absolutely.
Hi, my name is Ben Bolger, and I'm a grad student at Harvard. And the question I have is concerning intelligence and the role of intelligence in the future for human beings. I suppose there was a time when rote memory and memorization was an impressive task that humans had, and that's been replaced by technology and so forth. Creativity seems to be the one capital that we have over technology now. At what point do you think that technology will surpass our own creative capacity? And will that happen? And how will humans still be more distinctive or more superior to technology?
Well, I would say that the real heart of human intelligence is pattern recognition. And that's actually my field, is trying to teach computers to recognize patterns. But humans are still significantly superior. And the bulk of our intelligence is finding patterns. If you compare, just as a sort of laboratory example of different approaches to intelligence, how the traditional computer chess program performs compared to a human, the human is applying pattern recognition. I mean, Kasparov looks at the board and just in parallel compares it to 100,000 board positions he's learned. That's not a random number. That's actually approximately correct. And whereas the computer is actually analyzing move, counter-move sequences and can analyze billions of those in a few seconds. And Kasparov was asked, well, how many do you do a second? And he said less than one. The fact that he can actually compete with these machines is that it's a tremendous power of human pattern recognition. Computers are gaining in pattern recognition. That's a self-organizing paradigm. We're learning some of the secrets of pattern recognition. As we're getting more insights from reverse engineering the human brain, we're getting better models of about how human intelligence performs that function. Creativity appears to be a form of pattern recognition, being able to make connections between apparently disparate phenomena that have some commonality, where we see a pattern and can apply that pattern to a solution, or apply certain types of patterns in one field to another field. I try to actually foster that in my own projects by cross-fertilizing. Let's say have the signal processing engineers work on a linguistics problem, or vice versa, to try to find creative new ways of applying the patterns that are typically applied in one field of study. We are gaining more and more powerful models of pattern recognition. Various pattern recognition projects like speech recognition, character recognition, financial modeling, terrain navigation are gaining substantially in their capability. So once we've reverse engineered the human brain, which I believe we'll have succeeded in doing by the 2020s, and we can apply then those models and simulations to very powerful computing platforms, we will capture these qualities of human intelligence, including our emotional intelligence, which is really the cutting edge of human intelligence. Ability to perceive, it's another form of pattern recognition, but it's a very subtle and complex one, perceive things, humor and artistic beauty, or even the kind of pattern recognition that underlies anger and fear and envy and these kinds of higher level emotions are very high forms of pattern recognition. And those, I mean, when we talk about capturing human intelligence, that's what we're talking about. That is the cutting edge of human intelligence. But as I said before, it's not an alien invasion of intelligent machines. It's not going to be a simple matter of, okay, machines on the left side of the room, humans on the right. We are getting closer to our technology. When I went to MIT, the computers were behind glass walls in air-conditioned rooms, and our tables, they're under our arms, they're in our pockets, they're going to be in our clothing, they're going to make their way in our bodies and brains. In the 2020s, it's going to be very routine for people to have a lot of non-biological intelligence in bodies and brains, and you're going to be interacting with hybrids of biological, non-biological intelligence. It's already somewhat the case. And this woman told me the other day that her son's computer may as well be in his brain because he carries it everywhere he goes, and it's really an extension of him. And when she enters the room and she's standing there in the doorway, she's just kind of another window in his life, because he's got 5 windows open on his computer, and she's standing there framed in the doorway. And ultimately, these computers will be in our bodies and brains, and once it gets a foothold in our brains, and there are some people for whom that has already happened, it's the nature of non-biological intelligence to double in power every year, whereas biological intelligence isn't doing that. So it really is one civilization. I object to the word transhumanism because, or post-humanism, because it implies we're going beyond humanity. I think this is the human, it may be post-biological ultimately, but it's part of the human civilization.
Just a very brief follow-up. Right now, we accept as a paradigm that you can transfer files from one computer to another, and that the actual hardware is not as important. If you think of our consciousness, whatever that means, beyond the brain, but our awareness of reality, do you think there will become a point where that will be transferable, so that when our bodies eventually become no longer viable, regardless of how great nanotechnology is, we could transfer that consciousness to a new container?
Well, that's a good analogy. And you're pointing out that our software has a longevity that's not tied to the hardware that it runs on. And that's true today of our computer files. So if your computer crashes or you buy a new notebook computer, you don't have to start over again with your files. So then someone will say, oh, so files live forever. But actually, they don't do that either. They're just independent of the hardware. If you forgot about a file and you go, oh, I used to have that database. Let me go back to it 20 years ago. It's here on these PDP-1 8-inch floppies. You probably can't revive it anymore because the hardware's gone and there's 6 layers